శ్రీ గురుభ్యో నమః. శ్రీ పరమగురుభ్యో నమః. శ్రీమద్ ఆనందతీర్థ భగవత్పాదాచార్య గురుభ్యో నమః. ఓం శ్రీ రాఘవేంద్ర తీర్థ గురుభ్యో నమః. I am pleased to be delivering this fourth lecture on the series of lectures on the broad topic Bhagavad Gita Theory and Practice of Management, a Contemporary Profile. The objective of our lecture series is to bring out how Bhagavad Gita, despite being a moksha shastra, a yoga shastra, is in the modern interpretation a shastra meant for managing oneself. It is providing techniques, it is providing ways and means of optimum human behavior and managing oneself. As I mentioned, the Western management science of Peter Drucker and others essentially deals with managing others, whereas Bhagavad Gita, our traditional approach to management, tells you as to how to manage oneself. Unless you manage yourselves, you will not be able to manage others. That is why this management science, in a way, is superior, more comprehensive, and more effective. And we have seen that Karma Yoga essentially means performing karma in what is called as Nivritta Karma Anusthana. Nivritta Karma Anusthana means performing one's prescribed duty without obsession about the rewards. The word obsession about rewards is very important, because if we are not saying without, if we are saying without rewards, it means one should not worry about the rewards. But obsession about the rewards means excessive consideration for rewards all through your functioning. You must avoid excessive consideration, concern, excessive thinking about rewards while performing your duties. And then with a mindset of serving the mankind, serving the Lord, serving the corporate sector, serving the humanity as a whole. That means with robust objectives in mind and not having any personal agenda while doing your duties. And fourthly, very important dimension of the work culture which Bhagavad Gita preaches is to do the jobs without any feeling that I alone did it. Swatantra Kartritva Abhimana Rahitya. In the technical jargon, it is Swatantra Kartritva Abhimana Rahitya. So, Varnashrama Vihita Dharma. In those days, Varnashramas were Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. But now we can think of hundreds of occasions and thousands of occasions in thousands of lifestyles. In every situation, there is a prescribed duty. So you must conform to your prescribed duties and not deviate from it. Secondly, you must not be over-obsessed about the rewards. As I gave the example of an officer, I can give the example of a student. A student who is told that you must have the goal of getting 99%, 95% in your examinations, but if he is always obsessed about it and not performing his duty of studies and so on, if he is always obsessed about it, he would start thinking of some dubious ways of getting those results. That is, he might think how to get the papers leaked, how to find out who is the examiner, how to please the examiner, and he would find out paying money for getting the paper leaked and so on and so forth. So he would see the dubious ways. But a person who is engaged in the studies only would not worry about the rewards, but he would have the goal of the rewards in the mind, but focusing on his own work. The same way, the officer should focus on his work and not worry about the rewards. And rewards would come on their own. That is the message of doing work diligently, with focus, with attention, with concentration. And thirdly, having a, a broader perspective while doing the work, while doing a robust perspective of serving the mankind, serving the society, serving the humanity, and serving God. Because why God is the question which comes up later, and the entire Bhagavad Gita is telling you God is an icon of perfection. He is not having any blemish. He is Sarvaguna Paripurna, Sarvadosha Vivarjita, Sarvatantra Swatantra. So, if we conceive of the perfection in every activity, you will be reaching God when you strive to move towards the perfection. So, if you are aiming at doing your job perfectly and without any weaknesses, without any blemishes, without any shortcomings, then you are moving towards God. And that is, you are doing it as a service to Paramatma. As I said, every activity has got a commanding deity. My lecture has got a commanding deity, Bhagavan, in it. And he is the best in my lecture, the perfection. The most efficient way of delivering the lecture would be the symbolizing the God. And if I struggle to get at that perfection, that means I have gone near God. And I will tell you later how moksha has to be interpreted to mean getting rid of the various bondages which restrict our efficiency and reaching at the perfection. So if that happens, then you will be having the aradhana of Bhagavan. And fourthly, not having the feeling that I did it myself. We did it. All of us did it. Whenever success is there, you must say that my teacher, my parents, my environment, my colleagues, my seniors were responsible for it, have contributed to that. Then that gives you a sense of modesty to move ahead with the perfection, with the achievements. And you must not allow the corollaries of karma, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsara to come to you as objects, as impediments in achieving the job in the most efficient manner. Because kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsara would make you lose your efficiency. Now, Arjuna cannot say that he will run away from performing his duty. That is one easy option. That is why Krishna says, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturbhuhu ma te sango astu akarmani. Not doing karma cannot be one of your options. Then for that, the answers given are very many. That is, nobody would remain without any karmas. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishthatya karma krita karyate havashah karma sarva prakriti jair gunaihin. As per the natural character of everyone, some action or the other is always done. Avashaha. Avashaha means akaro Vishnuruddhishtha. One who is prompted by Paramatma, he keeps on doing. So he cannot be any time without any function. But if I say I will not do anything, at least you are doing something with your mind. कर्मेन्द्रियाणि संयम्य यास्ते मनसा स्मरन् इंद्रियार्थान् विमूढ़ात्मा मिथ्याचारस्य उच्यते. If somebody says, I am not doing anything, I am sitting quiet, at least in the mind he is thinking. Yastu indriyani manasa niyamya arabhate arjunan karmendriyaihi karmayogam asaktasya visishyate. A person who controls his mind and acts as per his karmendriyas, the prescribed functions in the Nivritta Karmanusthana framework, he would be called as a person not having any attachments. Vimudhatma Bhrantaha, and so yes, Tvindriyani Manasa Niyamya. Indriyas and Manas ought to be. So in the entire Bhagavad Gita, there is a very fundamental analysis of man's behavior. There is later on a theory of activity is prescribed. Theory of activity tells you as follows: Adhishthanam tatha karta, karanancha prithakvidam, vividacha prithakcheshta, daivancha ivatra panchamam. Theory of activity in economics is due to coupons or production functions, where only the material inputs are taken. But whereas in the theory of activity of Bhagavad Gita, most fundamental factors of production, factors of human behavior are taken. Adhishthanam. Adhishthanam is the initial conditions. Adhisthana is the basis or the fundamental environment in which the work is done. Tatha karta, and then the performer. Then the performer is later on classified as Satvika Karta, Rajasa Karta, and Tamasa Karta. I will come to that later. Karanancha Prithakvidham. Prithakvidham Karanam. The instrumentalities that are required for a function to be done. For instance, in the factory, you have the machinery, you have the tools, you have the equipments, you have computer, you have a number of paraphernalia which enable you to function. But Bhagavad Gita means more fundamental factors of production. They are essentially three: Indriya, Manas, and Buddhi. And these fundamental factors of production have to be kept in mind. Karananja Prithakvidam, Vividhacha Prithakcheshta, and their interaction. They are not to be taken separately, their interaction, Indriya, Manas, and Buddhi. We will deal with this issue of interaction between Indriya, Manas, and Buddhi shortly. And then, more than anything else, Daivan Chaivatra Panchama. The basic difference between the theory of activity of Bhagavad Gita and other materialistic activities prescribed in the management science or in economics is to recognize Daivam, that is the imponderable, something which is beyond us, which is all powerful. Adrishta, we have to recognize that there is some unknown factor which influences our activity. We will deal with this theory of activity in greater detail later, but right now I am emphasizing the point that Indriya, Manas, Buddhi are the fundamental factors referring to human behavior. How do they become fundamental? Indriyas get in touch with the Vishayas. The eyes see the Rupa, then ears hear the voice and the words and the preachings of the others. The Karnendriya, then Ghanendriya takes the smell, and Rasanendriya takes the taste, and Sparshendriya gets the touch. All these are Shabda, Rasa, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, Sparsha. These are the Vishayas. And when they get in touch with Vishayas, they send the signals. This contact between the sense organs and the Vishayas generates signals. And these signals are in the form of thoughts. And those thoughts come to the mind. And there are good thoughts and there are bad thoughts. You will always nourish very meritorious thoughts. You nourish very ethical thoughts, or many times you think of unethical thoughts. And so the mind becomes the battlefield of the good and the bad thoughts. Your Kurukshetra is in the mind. And then once the mind is becoming the storehouse of thoughts and the conflict of thoughts, then the emotions come. Then the emotions of love, affection, hatred, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsara. These are all the different varieties of emotions, and these emotions motivate you to have the tendency of certain types of actions. If we are having krodha, then you have a tendency to behave in a particular manner. So, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsara, all these are evil fallouts of doing your karma and getting emotions as a result of the thoughts. Now, here buddhi will have to come and reduce the adverse effects of the negative thoughts, and buddhi will, unless buddhi does this judgment, reasoning process, you will not be able to get the right kind of tendencies, right kind of emotions. That is why he gives a very, very basic, you do not get these even in the modern psychology science. The slokas which give the process of the interaction between indriya, manas and buddhi is very important for determining how their interaction determines the nature of the behavior. Dhyayato vishayan punsaha sangastheshupajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho vijayate क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृति विभ्रमः स्मृति भ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. These two slokas tell us the nature of the interaction and the calamity and the adverse effects that they generate. How they do it? When you get into an attractive object as the Vishaya for your indriyas. Suppose, to give an example, you go to a jewelry shop along with his friends, along with your friend, lady friends, and you see a beautiful gem or a necklace or a garland or an ornament, and at that moment you think that it is not worth it because you do not have that much of money, and you may also think that it is not necessary for you, even though your friend is taking for the marriage function. You just look at it and come back. But once that sight, that contact between the sense organs and the object keeps lingering in your mind, dhyayato vishayan punsaha, you keep on ruminating over that scene of that sight of that jewelry piece, and then sangaste shupajayate, then a sense of attachment, oh, I should possess that, I should have that ornament for myself also. And once this feeling of attachment that it should be mine begins, then sangat sanjayate kamaha, a desire to obtain it comes. And see how beautiful, how scientific is the analysis here. Bhagavad Gita is a treatise on Yoga Shastra, on Moksha Shastra, but fundamental human behavior is dealt with in different contexts, in the different slokas, in the different occasions. And kamaha, and kamat krodho vijayate, you start nourishing how to get it, how to get the money, how to borrow, how to steal, how to persuade your husband or persuade a bank to give you loan, etc., etc. And when you are not able to manage those resources, krodho bhijayate, then you get anger. Anger is the corollary of not realizing something. As I said, anger is the response to situations when there is mismatch between your expectations and the actual events. You get angry with a child, you get angry with a subordinate, you get angry with the juniors. Why? Most of the time you feel that your expectations are not fulfilled. That is why you must always adjust your expectations to the feasible happenings. You cannot keep expectations much beyond what is feasible, what is appropriate. And once things do not happen as per your expectations, then the krodha, the anger comes. Anger is the beginning of all forces of destruction. That is why later on Krishna tells Arjuna, Kamaesha Krodhaesha Rajoguna Samudbhavaha Mahashano Mahapapma Vidyaina Mehaverinam. You consider Kama and Krodha as your enemies, because all mischievous misbehaviors, misconducts, the corruption, corruptive tendency, doing unethical things begins with Kama and then Krodha. So, Krodho Vijayate, Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha. Once you get into a tendency of becoming angry, then you get into some sort of misunderstanding. You forget about what is right and what is wrong. You forget about the ethical prescriptions of the elders. Sammoha. Sammoha smriti vibhramaha. And once you get into a situation of ignorance, misunderstanding, wrong interpretation, then it generates the collapse of your memory. You even forget that the elders had told you that this should not be done. You should not aspire for something which is not within your means, and smriti vibhrama. Then once smriti vibhrama takes place, it buddhinasha, your entire intellect, buddhi. So, indriya, manas and buddhi. Buddhi nasha, kama, krodha, etc. are the responses of the manas. Once the indriyas have contact with the objects and they generate signals, their job is done. And then the manas indriya comes into action. And manas indriya generates the thoughts and the emotions. That's why later on he says, Krishna says that I have given you various stages of controlling your behavior. You need not have the sight of the objects which are going to disturb you. You can avoid the seeing the objects themselves, or listening to wrong words, and or not tasting something which is not palatable, which is not good for you. A diabetes patient, if he takes a sweet, it would be poison to him. So you avoid taking that right in the stage of indriyas and the vishayas. You reduce the contacts with that. And even if you have the contacts, and don't allow the thoughts, the good and the bad thoughts, to bother you. Try to make the good thoughts alone to come in the way, and bad thoughts to be relinquished, to be sacrificed. And then even if the thoughts come, don't allow the emotions, the bhavas, to come. And once the bhavas come, your tendency to act becomes strong. And even if bhavas come, you can control the tendency to function in a way, and you can control the bhavas. And if even if bhavas come, if you can control the action. So there are various stages of controlling. And smriti bhramshat buddhinasha. Once buddhinasha takes place, the man is destroyed. Therefore, you must always ragadvesha viyuktaistu vishayan indriyaischaran atmavasyair vidheyatman prasadam adhigacchati. Once you do not allow raga and dvesha, all these corollaries of the karmalepa, you do not allow them, but you allow the indriyas to get in touch with the objects, vishayan indriyaischaran. You can see a beautiful erotic cinema poster for a student, but you need not get disturbed by that. You can see the beautiful jewelry in the jewelry shop, but you need not get disturbed by that. You may see many others getting promotions in the office, but don't get disturbed by that, except to derive the lesson that you must do your duty properly, then only you will get the promotion. If you get into the messages for your duty performance, then it is fine. If you do not get into the messages of duty performance, you will always think of dubious ways of getting promotion without performing your prescribed duties. So, Vishayan Indriyaihi Charan Ragadvesh Viyuktaihi tu Atmavashaihi Vidheyatma Atmavashaihi, one which is under the control of yourself, then prasadam adhigacchati. If this approach is adopted, then you become balanced. So now I am in the process of trying to tell you how to avoid the adverse effects of karma lepas, and in a natural way. Krishna Paramatma tells you that you must control the indriyas and the manas and make your buddhi properly develop, so that it gives you the proper arguments of reasoning. And then there is a beautiful statement which says that if you are having your approach as one of balanced approach without any disturbance in your mind, then you will achieve all the happiness in life. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirashyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishthati. If you have your mind under your control, then buddhi also remains balanced. Buddhi paryavatishthati. Buddhi remains in a firm setting to give you the correct reasoning. Otherwise, the buddhi also becomes waylaid and you will not be able to realize the correct arguments for doing the right things. Always it tells you, oh, he did it, he got the promotion without working, he got so much wealth without working hard, and I must also get that. So many of these corruptions and then the raids which give you lot of money, cash, wealth, properties in the possession of individuals is because the buddhi has gone waylaid. Prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishthati. So prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirashyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishthati. And for doing that, you must always be engaged in the proper karma yoga. Nasti buddhirayuktasya nachayuktasya bhavana nachabhavaytasya antihi ashantasya kutas sukham. Nasti buddhihi ayuktasya. Ayukta means the one who is not doing his karmas in the karma yoga framework, ayuktasya. And then ayukta, not having the karma yoga in the proper perspective, as we said. Nasti buddhihi. His buddhi also gets corrupted, his buddhi also gets destroyed. Then nachayuktasya bhavana, and then he will not get, once he becomes away, deviating from the karma yoga in the nivritta karmanusthana framework, you will not have the bhavana, the emotions coming out in the proper manner. Nacha bhavayata shantihi, the one who does not properly perceive the emotions in the proper perspective, then he will not be able to get shanti. Shanti in the ultimate sense is moksha, but in the ordinary world, shanti means peace of mind. Peace. He is not having the harmony. We have seen that one who is always troubled with his mind, not having composure, always disturbed, then he will never get the peace, the balanced approach. Achantasya kutas sukham. Then this sloka again brings in the interaction between the indriyas, manas and buddhi. Beautiful sloka. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is fond of giving allegories. In fact, one can write a thesis, PhD thesis, on the imageries that are given in Bhagavad Gita at so many places. I will tell them whenever there is an occasion. But here see how beautiful imagery is there in the following sloka. Indriyanam hicharatam yanmano anuvidhiyate tadasya harati prajnam vayurnavamibambhasi. Indriyanam hi charatam yan manaha anumidhiyate. If mind follows the indriyas wherever they go, and then tadasya harati prajnam, if mind also goes to places where the indriyas go, then that prajna, buddhi, is also carried away. And once buddhi is carried away in the wrong directions as a result of the fact that the mind also has been carried away in the wrong directions because of the indriyas, then vayur navamivambhasi, it becomes like a boat in the whirlpool of currents in the water. What happens to the boat when it is caught in the whirlpool of water? It gets submerged finally. It gets tossed up and down. The balance goes away. And see the beautiful imagery of this. Vayur navamivambhasi. That is why we many times request Paramatma to be the guide for us in taking us in a boat from the ocean of samsara, in the river of dukkhas, in a proper way, without getting the boat submerged. Indriyanam hi charatam, that means indriyas go wherever they want. So here I am reminded of the imagery given in Kathakopanishad, and later on here also it comes. In Kathakopanishad it comes very clearly that this deha, this body, is the beauty of psychological behavioral analysis that is available in our deep rooted philosophy of Paramatma. Philosophy of Paramatma also gives you the philosophy of life. So in the Kathakopanishad, the imagery is given as this body, idam shariram ratham, this, consider this sharira as ratha. Atmanam rathinam vidhi, indriyani hayan ahuhu. The indriyas are like horses, like 5 karmendriyas, 5 jnanendriyas. 5 jnanendriyas we can take. There are 5 horses to this chariot of body. Indriyani hayan nahu. Then the hayas, the ashwas, have a tendency to go to any directions. That is why there is a saying in Kannada that kudiri ettu eregelitu, emme keregelitu. That means the 2 horses, if they drag you in different directions, where do you go? So that is why there has to be a rein, R-E-I-N, rein, the lagam, and that lagam is manas. Manah pragrahamevacha, manas is the lagam. Now who holds this lagam? Who has to manage the movement of the horses in the desired direction? That is buddhi. Buddhintu sarathim vidhi manah pragrahamevacha. See the beauty of the imagery. Buddhi has to sit in the seat of the sarathi, and he has to have all the 5 reins of the 5 horses and pull the horses if they have tendency to go in wrong directions. Later on here also in Bhagavad Gita also the same imagery is given. So the Kathakopanishad gives in the Yama Nachiketa Samvada, this imagery is given. And buddhim tu sarathim vidhi, atmanam rathinam vidhi. Ourselves are the yajamanas sitting in the chariot. What do? We depend upon the sarathi, buddhi. So our own buddhi has to be trained properly. If buddhi is also corrupted, if right from the childhood our buddhi is towards corruptive tendency, unethical actions, and then nothing happens. If it goes in the unethical actions, you will be tended to move towards unethical actions. And therefore, buddhim tu sarathim vidhi, manah pragrahamevacha, manas. And therefore, it gives indriya, manas and buddhi are the 3 basic karanas for any activity. And see how fundamental is this. Even I was once lecturing this in the SVBC channel. There was a psychiatrist scholar on the panel. There were 3 or 4 scholars used to sit around me, and once I deliver the lectures, they would ask questions and raise points of discussion, and that used to be a very beautiful methodology of conducting analysis. And the psychologist said, psychiatrist actually, not even psychology professor, but practicing psychiatrist, she said that even in the modern psychology of Western vintage, we do not have such fundamental model of analysis of the psychic analysis of behavior, and such psychic analysis is available here. Tadasya harati prajnam vayu navam iva ambhasi tasmadyasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvashah indriyani indriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratisthita. Thus, if the one who controls the indriyas from the objects of the indriyas, if they go to their objects and generate wrong signals, that will start creating problems, and the buddhi does not intervene properly, then that creates problems. You can give many examples of this mismatch between the indriyas movements, the mind's movement, and the buddhi's behavior. Only when our mind is controlled, he says, tasmadyasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvashah indriyani indriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratisthita. I will give a separate session on how sambodhanas are given in Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna addressing Krishna as Madhusudana and Arisudana, and in the appropriate place Krishna addressing Arjuna as Arjuna, Kaunteya, Partha, and Bharata, and in different contexts, in the different situations, he uses different addresses, different Sambodhana Vibhaktis. That is another lesson for human behavior. You must know how to address a person. You cannot really make him feel bad. Sometimes you have to say Appa, Anna, or call him by name Madhu, call him by name as Kiran, whatever name you choose, you call it with affection. Then the man behaves in a way. Here he is calling Arjuna as Mahabaho, Mahantau Bahu Yasya Saha, who has got very valorous shoulders, because Arjuna has got the vanity sometimes that he is very brave, he can do whatever he likes. And in fact, the story goes that at the end of the Mahabharata Yuddha, Arjuna was bloating with vanity, with ego, that he conquered, he won the war. And when Krishna tells Arjuna to get down from the Ratha, Arjuna refuses. Oh, you are the Sarathi. By that time he was bloating with vanity, with ego. He says, you get down first, I will do that. Then Krishna says, no, I will get down, and first you get down. Then after a lot of argumentation, Arjuna finally agrees to get down, and then Krishna gets down, and then the entire Ratha gets burnt into ashes. Then Arjuna understands, why is it you are asking me to get down? Krishna says, I had kept all the powerful astras of the powerful persons like Bhishmacharya, Dronacharya, and Ashwathama, and others in the outskirts of the Ratha. I did not allow them to enter you to harm you. That was the power. And you had chosen me as the only Sarathi, as the only army for you, and I have to protect you. It is my duty. And also you were on the side of Dharma, and my responsibility is to protect Dharma and destroy Adharma. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirbhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. That is my janma and karma. My janma is pradurbhava. I do not have the janma like other jivas in possessing the materialistic panchadhatu nirmita deha, and not that this deha collapses. There is no destruction of that kind in me. As I said, chaturvidhanasha, anityatvam dehahanihi dukkha praptihi apurnata. That I do not have, except all the four types of nashas I do not have. Whereas jiva has got the nashas of dehahani and dukkha prapti, apurnata. It may not have the destruction. It is eternal. It is the same as before. It goes from one body to the other. But so anityatvam is not there, but dehahani dukkha prapti apurnata. This I have told many times earlier also. And now the point I am saying is that Krishna addresses Arjuna as Mahabaho. See, you think that you have such valorous shoulders, and then you are not able to control your mind, you are not able to control your indriyas, you are not able to make your buddhi grow in a proper way and help you. You are allowing them to behave in a particular manner. Indriyanam hi charatam yanmano anuvidhiyate tadasya harati prajnam vayurnavamivambhasi. Later on, after telling about this theory of karma, he comes to the situation where all the three should be properly managed. Managing oneself would mean managing one's indriyas, one's manas and one's buddhi. And I heard some person preaching on dhyana yoga. Later on I will come to the dhyana yoga in the 6th canto. But in the dhyana yoga, we have to make the indriyas, manas and buddhi to be in unidirectional framework. So she was saying that close your eyes, think that you are on the seashore, hold that you are near the waves and the waves are coming increasingly at you. Are you feeling your dhoti or leg as wet? And the person says yes, and slowly the waves are increasing and your dhoti has become still more wet, and slowly the power of the waves is increasing, or you are feeling swept away from the sand underneath your feet. So this is dhyana. You must have the mind, the sense organs and the buddhi to be focusing on one object, not allow your mind to go away. Many times we have seen that somebody is performing puja, and then his daughter was a very knowledgeable or scholarly lady. It is said in relation to a great devotee girl, and later on somebody comes in the gate, in the entrance, to inquire whether this person is available at home. And this lady, this daughter, replies to say that no, he is not here, he has gone to cobbler's shop. Cobbler's shop. And then after the puja is over, this person asks the girl, did that person come? She says yes, he had come. Then why did you not inform me? Then the daughter says that your mind was in the cobbler's shop at that time. I knew about it. So, I mean, the story goes that many times we allow the mind to run away. We have seen that even while doing japam, our mind travels to moon, travels to USA, travels to your loving person, and travels to the office, at so many places. While you are doing japam and dhyanam, you must allow all the three to focus on one object, that is Paramatma. The object is one of perfection, one of blemishlessness, and then if you concentrate on that object, then your purpose would be served to a greater extent than when you do not have that object in your mind. And all the three should be indriyani indriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratisthita. So he addresses me as Mahabaho. Don't think that you are Mahabaho unless you know how to control your mind and indriyas and buddhi. And then it says that या निशा सर्वभूतानां यस्यां जागर्ति संयमी यस्यां जागृति भूतानि सा निशा पश्यतो मुनेः. It's a beautiful sloka which says that when there is night for all the beings, then Sanyami, the one who has control over his mind and sense organs, he becomes awake. The meaning which Raghavendra Swamigalu gives is that ya bhutanam praninam nisha iva nisha parameshwara swarupa lakshana yat parameshwara swarupam praninam nisha sthaniyam iti yavat. The one who is having the night, the darkness towards the knowledge of Paramatma, and at that time Sanyami Jagarti, the person who has control over your mind and sense organs, is awake. That means he is having the sight of Paramatma. He is able to see where Paramatma is, whereas the ordinary person, the Paramatma is not there. It is almost like night to him. Yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pasyato munehe. The object in which the ordinary person becomes awake, that is in the context of worldly pleasures, the worldly objects. In that context, the beings become awake, they become conscious, they become recognizing those objects. Where in that case, Muni, the one who is Mananasila, he who is control over the sense organs and this one, he would be having the night. That means he would not be seeing that. आपूर्यमाणम अचल प्रतिष्ठं समुद्रमापः प्रविशन्ति यद्वत् तद्वत् कामायं प्रविशन्ति सर्वे स शान्तिमाप्नोति न कामकामी. Again, the imagery is very interesting. आपूर्यमाणम अचल प्रतिष्ठं समुद्रमापः प्रविशन्ति यद्वत्. In the ocean, you stand on the shore of the ocean, near the place where the river joins the ocean. In the ocean, the river is always pouring in water continuously. Several thousand cusecs of water go into the ocean. But does the ocean come forward? No. Apuryamanam, achala pratishtham. It is not having any change in your in its status. Samudram, apaha pravishanti. The waters are entering. And then tadvat kamaha yam pravishanti. In the same way, when kamas enter your mind, you will not be able to control it. Then saha shantim apnoti na kama kami. Such a person who does not allow the kamas to enter him would be able to, does not get the shanti, but not the one who is always desiring to have the kamas as entering him. So therefore, sashantim apnoti na kama kami. And therefore, Indriya, Manas and Buddhi are three important organs of the body which need to be controlled, and then he would be able to get the results very well. Then he says that nobody can remain without performing duties. Saha yajñah praja srishtva purovacha prajapatihin anena prasavishyadhvam eshavostvishta kamadhuk. Devan bhavayatanena ते देवा भावयन्तु वः परस्परं भावयन्तः श्रेयः परमवाप्स्यथ. So I will stop here. Yatra Yogeshwarah Krishno, Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha, Tatra Sri Vijayo Bhutihi, Dhruvani Tirmatirmama, Sri Krishna Arpanamastu.